So, the last trade involving the Cleveland Browns have traded Danny Shelton, nose tackle, to the New England Patriots. The Patriots have finally gotten a trade done. They tried to trade for Aqib Talib. They tried to trade for Michael Bennett. Now they get their man, Danny Shelton. The Browns will be receiving a 2019 third-round pick in return for Danny Shelton, while New England will get Shelton and a fifth-round pick this year. So essentially, the way that works, teams usually value a pick next year is basically the value has lessened by a round. So essentially, the Browns got a fourth rounder this year is the way that teams look at it. Now, the Browns, looking at them first before we get to the Patriots, the Browns obviously getting a third round pick next year, I think helps them because while I think Shelton is a good player and it's tough to lose him, I think that the Browns getting a third round pick next year helps their draft stock next year because they have all these picks this year. That do you really need another fifth round pick while we can turn that fifth and a player into a third next year that we can use next year in a potential trade, or we can draft a player in the third round next year. We have all these picks already this year. We don't necessarily need another fifth round pick. So in that sense, it makes a lot of sense for the Browns to not get a pick this year, but next year. Now for the Patriots, and the value of this trade is kind of interesting because like I said, a 2019 third is kind of like a 2018 fourth, and the Patriots also got a fifth. So what this says to me is that Shelton was sort of valued at like fifth round value, because or sixth round even value, but the Patriots got him for, a third plus a fifth, which is like whatever the Danny Shelton was doing the math equation in your head that's the way you figure out the value of the player. But to me, Danny Shelton comes in, and I tweeted this earlier. The Patriots had the worst run defense under Bill Belichick in their history under Bill Belichick. And as a Belichick-led team, they had the worst run defense they've ever had. So that being said, they needed to up their defensive line. They needed to get some talent in there. They needed to get in bigger bodies and guys that can stuff the run. Danny Shelton can certainly do that. One of the biggest things that went under the radar with the Browns last year was the fact that they were the second best team against the run in a yards per carry sense. They only let up 3.4 yards per carry last year, which was second to the Denver Broncos. So that is very good. And considering a lot of teams, they still finished seventh overall in rush defense, considering a lot of teams run the ball against them late in games because they sucked and they were trying to milk the clock out. That's still very impressive. Danny Shelton is the main reason that happened. He was their nose tackle in the middle of that defense. He's a really, really good run stuffer, and he'll instantly provide the Patriots with a big guy in the middle that can move a center and move guards in the middle that can allow their linebackers and their other defensive players room to get after the runner and get after the quarterback. So Danny Shelton is like a space eater. And if you're Patriots fans, think of it this way. He's sort of in the same mold of a Vince Wilfork. He's not as good as a Vince Wilfork, but he's in the same mold as him. He does the same role, and that's what Bill Belichick's been looking for a couple of years. They had that with Alan Branch last year. Alan Branch fell off a cliff this year in terms of performance. He was injured a lot. Now they bring in Danny Shelton, a guy that can instantly help them against these run-powering teams. We saw the Eagles run all over them in the Super Bowl. That will not happen with Danny Shelton in the middle. Now they have Danny Shelton. They have Lawrence Guy. They have Malcolm Brown. They have Vincent Valentine coming back. And they also have Dietrich Wise as their defensive tackles. That's a good rotation there. So that's going to be a really interesting rotation for the Patriots inside. They've pretty much solved their interior defensive line issues there. Now they need to focus on their edge rushers and their linebackers. And the Patriots have made another solid move to shore up their defensive line. And this is a really wise move, in my opinion. Shelton was a former first-round pick in 2015. Now, the reason why the Browns gave him up was because the Browns weren't going to sign him in a year or so, because right now they have to pay these guys. They have to go out and sign some more free agents and up their team. And the second most important part is that he doesn't really fit their scheme anymore. This was a guy that was drafted. And the thing about the Browns is they're able to trade all these different assets because they don't have, they don't have the familiarity with the system, because Shelton was a guy that was drafted for a 3-4 defense to play nose tackle as in Pettin's scheme. But now that they have Hugh Jackson and they've had him for a couple of years, and they've kind of been looking to trade Danny Shelton because he doesn't quite fit the scheme defensively that they've wanted. So Danny Shelton can go to New England where he fits the scheme better, instead of playing in Cleveland where he doesn't quite fit that scheme. So it's a wise move for both parties involved. I think the Patriots do slightly win the trade because they get a talented guy that can instantly help them, while Cleveland has to wait a year to get a draft pick. It was more about Cleveland. They weren't going to pick up his 5th-year option. They were trying to get compensation back in a trade, and that's what the trade was about. And the Patriots do end up getting a guy that can help them. So that's my thoughts on the trade.